Welcome to How to Cook That. I'm Ann Reardon, and this week we're making the famous Mont Blanc Dessert, which means White Mountain. The Mont Blanc peak that the dessert is named after is on the border between Italy and France. According to the French, this dessert was invented by Anthony Rumpelmayer's at Angelina's restaurant in Paris. But the Italians claim that they invented the dessert 300 years earlier. This dessert has meringue and cream inside and a coating of chestnut cream over the top. We actually didn't see the dessert in Italy at all, so I decided to look for it on the French island of Corsica. Apparently back in the 16th century in Corsica, if you were a landowner, you had to plant 4 trees every year. They must have had big land if they're going to plant 4 trees every year. And one of them had to be a chestnut tree. And chestnuts have become quite an important part of the economy here. It's not quite chestnut season here yet, but we still found chestnut eclairs. The French word for chestnut here is châtaignat. I think that's how you say it. If I pronounced it wrong and you speak French, let me know in the comments how to actually pronounce it. These were amazing. They had this really beautiful chestnut cream in the middle. There was chestnut flour, and one menu even had chestnut creme brulee. Chestnut cake was at cafes literally everywhere, and chestnut products were at the supermarket, but there was no Mont Blanc. After we got off the cruise, we actually flew to Paris and we went to lots of patisseries, one of which was Angelina's, which is where it was apparently invented, and there finally we found the Mont Blanc dessert. I was expecting the chestnut topping on the outside to be like the filling in the eclair that I had, but it was much thicker and drier and sweeter, and it was quite cloying. Recipes for this top part do vary widely, from ones that just basically are chestnuts and sugar all the way through to ones that have other ingredients that lighten it up. So I'm going to go for one that's a little lighter, but I'll put the thicker, more sort of cloying one on the website as well, so you can choose which one you want to make. But let's start with our meringues. Put some egg whites and sugar and a pinch of cream of tartar into a bowl and whip that on high speed. If you're new around here, all the recipe quantities are on the howtocookthat.net website for you in grams and ounces and cups, and I'll link to that below for you. And make sure you subscribe to How to Cook That and hit the bell to turn on notifications so you know when I upload a new video. And you need to keep whipping that until your meringue is nice and thick like this. Draw circles onto some baking paper, and then once you've done that, you want to flip it over so that you don't get any of that pencil on your meringue. It's just to give you a guide as to how big to pipe them. Pipe domes of meringue to fill each circle, and then put some water on your fingertip and push down that top little bit on each one so you don't have it sticking up there. Then place those in the oven to bake. Once they're done, you want to leave them in the oven, but turn off the heat so that they can cool down slowly. This helps stop any cracks. For the orange syrup, you need to combine sugar, fresh orange juice, and some orange rind. Then you just stir that together and then microwave it on high until the sugar is dissolved. And then you just want to set that aside to cool. Easy. To make the cake base, you'll need flour, sugar, butter, baking powder, and eggs. Place the eggs and sugar into the bowl of an electric mixer and beat them on high speed until they've gone from being a deep yellow to a pale and fluffy mixture. Melt the butter. Add the flour and the baking powder into a sieve and sieve that just to get rid of any lumps and to aerate it. Then pour in the melted butter and fold that all together. Pour it into a small brownie tin and bake it until it's golden. For the chestnut topping, we need butter, cream, sugar, egg yolk, rum, and of course chestnut puree. I wouldn't have been able to get fresh chestnuts back through Australian customs, so I just had to get a tin. That's the best that I could do. Put the sugar into a bowl, add the egg yolk and mix those together. Then add enough of the cream to make a paste. Put the rest of the cream into a pan and wait until it just comes to the boil, and then pour it into the yolk mixture and whisk it together. Then add all of that back into the pan and heat it up again, and you're doing this so you can cook the egg yolks and dissolve that sugar, and you just want to keep stirring until it just starts to thicken and you can start to see the bottom of the pan there. Then you want to let that cool to room temperature. You can speed that up by putting the bottom of the pan in a sink of cold water. Once it is cool, tip it into the bowl of an electric mixer and then add in the rum and the butter and that tin of chestnut puree, and you want to whip that all together until it's smooth. Next, I actually put it through a sieve to get rid of any little bits of chestnut. There are a few little chunks in there, and then cover it in plastic wrap and put it in the fridge to chill. Whip your cream and take your cake out of the tray and cut circles in roughly the same size as you made your meringues so that they will sit neatly on top of each circle. Now to assemble. Start with a circle of cake at the bottom and add a couple of teaspoons of that orange syrup, or if you prefer you could just use marmalade if you don't want to make the syrup, but it does make the cake super moist. Add a dollop of cream on top and then place a meringue on top of that right in the centre, and then cover the whole thing with a thin coating of whipped cream. Then add some of the chestnut cream around the base. Now the reason I'm doing this is it's hard to pipe it thick right down to the bottom. So if you've got the chestnut cream underneath at the bottom, it makes it look finished and full instead of looking like there's gaps. Pipe the chestnut topping over the top, starting on one side, going all the way over to the other, just going back and forth in one direction. Then turn and pipe in the opposite direction, back and forth, so that each side is covered. Now we just need to neaten it up around the base. So anywhere where you've got excess on the counter, just use your palette knife just to push it down and scrape it away. And then you want to carefully transfer that onto your plate, making sure you don't drop it. And then if you can't get your spatula out, just use a knife to gently push it off. And then sprinkle that with icing sugar so that it looks like a white mountain. Mont Blanc. If you prefer the look of your chestnut going around the meringue instead of over the top, just put it on a turntable and put something under your turntable so it's up on an angle, and pipe the chestnut topping on as you spin. So you should be able to keep your piping bag relatively still and just spin the turntable all the way up to the top. Beautiful. Head on over to reddit.com/r/H2CT to enter the baking competition that we have going on. You've still got a week and a half to get baking and get your photos in there for your chance to win some prizes. Help me out by giving a thumbs up and sharing the video. Subscribe to How to Cook That and check out some more of my vids here. Make it a great week by loving others, and I'll see you on Friday.